Week one's winding down. Pittsburgh's going to run the table, and Miami's down by a touchdown, bud. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 75 of Bringing the Heat. My name's Cody Pyatt. With me, as always, the four-seam fastball co-host, Will Sism. Buddy, this has been a long week of fantasy baseball, but how are you doing?
Has been a long week. Feels like I've been playing the same guy in a head-to-head league for ages, but hey, baseball is back. Regular season baseball is here, so I can't complain too much. So excited about our number 75 today, and let's get it.
Dude, this is a special one, man. The off-season shows are done. We have some new I can't even think of the word. We got some new segments. Content, man. And we're going to dust off some old ones. So it's, I am just so excited, man. I woke up psyched because I was like, it's Wednesday. We're going to tackle this tonight. And there's just been some great baseball being played. Not a lot of bats, though. I mean, the bats, they're sawing logs, dude. But, they're going to come around, guys. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a dive into the standings first. A little standings recap. And, this is probably something not a lot of teams are doing, Will, right? I mean, you just want to get out. You want to get your feet wet, play baseball. You're not really looking at how many games back you are. But that's what we're here for, okay? It's going to be exciting. Let's take a look at the American League in the East. The New York Yankees, man, coming out on fire, 6-1. The Red Sox, 5-2. I love to see it, buddy. Baltimore Orioles, 3-2. The Jays, 3-3. And your Rays, 3-4. But it's early. In the Central, Detroit, they're undefeated, and then the rain's they're not gonna play again. They're done for the year. 4-0. Cleveland 5-2. Minnesota Twins 3-2. Kansas City Royals 2-3, and the White Sox 1-4, right where we thought they'd be. In the West, the LA Angels. That's not where we thought they'd be. 4-2 up top. The Rangers 4-2 as well, and then you got the Mariners at 3-4, and then listen to this, man. The Houston Astros 1-5. Oakland, not to be outdone, 1-6. That's your American League standings, Will. What stands out, man?
Oh, God. It's kind of crazy, quite honestly. I mean, it's not time to overreact at this point, just less than a week in, but couple of just early takeaways. The Yankees sweeping the Astros, that was, I don't know, that felt like a statement to me, to where it felt like, because at least I thought the Yankees were going to really be good this year, even, with Garrett Cole's healthy, a little bit murky right now. I still kind of thought the Yankees would be really good, and them going out to Houston and taking 4 games, that was impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And especially without a guy like Aaron Judge really doing a whole lot, because they've been so reliant on him the past year or two. And I think if you're a Yankees fan, you have to really feel good about things, at least at this point. In the Central, I said the Tigers. Like, obviously it's still super early, but I like where the Tigers are going. I feel really good about kind of what they're doing. And then out west, man. Now, let's say the Angels, it did help the fact that they played the Marlins in a series.
We'll talk to them.
We'll talk about them in a little bit. But but kudos to the Angels. They're playing well. They're playing hard. Can't control who the schedule gives you starting out. So good. Kudos to the Angels. And man, how crazy is it to see Houston at 1-5? I don't expect this to continue. I think that they'll turn it around, but still, that new manager. This is definitely not the ideal scenario for him. So let's see if they can get it turned back around here soon.
Yeah. You hear a lot in professional sports about the game speeding up on you. It was palpable in that Yankees series, because that was not a series that the New York Yankees rolled over the Astros. Astros were in every game, and the Yankees, man, credit to them, showed a ton of fight. And like you said, I want to second it, without Judge. This is a team that last year, they were a ship without a sail when he was down for, after the toe injury. I think he missed like 40 or 60 games. So for them to come back and get it other places, I mean, you gotta tip your cap to them. Again, it's early, but without without Garrett Cole to come out and do what they did, very special. Man, let's keep rolling into the National League here, because we got lots of fun stuff to talk about, dude. The NL East, right where we thought they'd be. The Braves at 3-2, the Phillies at 2-3. Then you got the Nationals. Boy, this is like we got 3 teams vying to be the worst team in baseball here. Okay, they saw what the A's did and said maybe we want to go play in Vegas. Okay, we got the Washington Nationals at 1-3, and then listen to this, everybody. New York Mets 0-4, and then Miami 0-7. They've had 7 cracks at this thing. They got swept out of the playoffs. They haven't won a game since like
yeah, that's true.
I don't know, dude. What is that? Early October last year?
Yeah,
they're on a 10-game loser at least. So Miami, maybe you get Sandy up there and just see if he can throw left-handed. That's my 2 cents there. In the Central, what about the up-and-coming Pittsburgh Pirates at 5-0, Milwaukee Brewers 4-1, the Cubs at 3-2, looking A-OK. Reds 3-2, and then the Cardinals 3-4. Not a ton of fight so far, but again, I'm going to say it like 10 times this episode. It's early. And then in the West, the LA Dodgers doing the dang thing, 6-2. Diamondbacks 4-3. Padres 4-5, and then the Giants and Rockies bottom 2, 2-4 and 1-5. NL, buddy, take it away.
It's interesting. I would say, keep in mind who some of these teams have played. The Phillies, they opened up with the Braves, so the Braves got 2 out of 3 in Philadelphia. So it's kind of like what we said. I think that's going to be all day long, Phillies, Braves in that division all year. The Marlins, though, I think they opened with the Pirates, and now they're playing the Angels, and to not be able to win any games out of 7 against the Angels and the Pirates, dude, alarm bells are now sounding in Miami. Like, that is just atrocious.
Tanner Scott has been a problem. I mean, he was locked down as lockdown could be last year.
The controls getting back away from him.
He might have pitched himself out of the job in week 1, which is hard to believe, but they've looked that bad, especially in the back half of these games. What about out west, dude? Are the Diamondbacks for real?
I think they are. I think there's something to be said for that team because they returned a lot of pieces off of that team last year that went all the way, to the National League, or actually to the World Series. Mm-hmm. And I have to believe that those guys who went into Philadelphia last year, when literally nobody thought they were going to win, when they took games 6 and 7 in Citizens Bank Park against the Phillies, I think that had to give that whole franchise confidence that, hey, if we can do it in these 2 games when everything's on the line and probably the most hostile environment in baseball, we can do this again. Yep. And so I think that the confidence that they got in that Philadelphia series and making it all the way to the World Series, I feel like that's going to boost this franchise all year long. And yes, I think they're for real. Let's not just think that the Dodgers are just going to just hightail it and, run away the division. They might.
Yeah.
But one of these teams might give them a fight. So,
for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited about some of these Western teams, and we'll see how this plays out.
Dude, tons of up-and-coming talent in the National League. It's a lot of fun. We got more talent to talk about, guys, as we move to one of my favorite segments, guys. Let's talk about it. Here we go. We are back, baby doll. That means it's Heat Check Player of the Week time. If you're new in year 2, this is just a guy who was just red hot, okay? And we're going to shout him out for this week. Will, I love your pick, man. I know he's on, I think, both of your teams that we play in together. So tell me about him.
You know what? Try my best not to be a homer on our show, but I don't think that anybody who's listened to our show understands or they know how much I love both Juan Soto and Adley Rutschman. And man, Juan Soto, the week he had over the first week with New York and his debut in the pinstripe, so to speak, was unbelievable. So Juan Soto is my player of the week. Batted just under 600 for the week. But you know what? I think honestly the best play that he made all week was when he threw out I think it was Dubon or somebody for the Astros at home from left field, and that was a game-changing play. Yep. And so a lot of people rag on him for lack of defense and say he's just an offensive player, and I think he's here to prove that he can do a little bit of everything. I'm not saying he's the second coming of Mookie Betts, but I think that the defense definitely plays. But I know what plays is that bat, and so him taking Hader the opposite way off the Crawford boxes, just if you go back and just watch that at bat, dude, it was unbelievable. So I just want to say, like, Juan Soto, I think he's in for an absolute amazing year, and I don't think he could have asked for a better start to the season in that New York uniform.
Dude, I've heard it said before, those pinstripes are heavy. He comes in rolling, having a great time, doing the Soto shuffle, hat on backwards. I
love it, man.
It's like he was born to be in New York. And you mentioned that Hader at bat. That is the stuff. Those are two Hall of Famers going at it, like in the primes of their career. We're going to look back at that. That was pretty spectacular. An incredible start. I went with the guy who had two incredible starts for a not so incredible team, Garrett Crochet. Okay, this is my soapbox of the episode. 2 starts. This man looked untouchable against the upstart Tigers and then the mighty Goliath Atlanta Braves. He managed 2 earned runs across both of those, 16 Ks, 1 walk, ERA of 1.38. And, this is my most owned fantasy player. I have 13 leagues. I added him in every single league it was available. He's in 10. He's on 10 of my teams. He looks incredible. This guy, before starting opening day, hadn't started a baseball game since college. And, he was a bullpen piece. They stretched him out. He's the real freaking deal. I mean, if you can do that to the Atlanta Braves, I mean, he made them look silly for 7 innings. And, he's going to be nasty. The big question mark everybody wants to know, how many innings is he going to be able to pitch? No one's knocking at the door in that rotation to knock him off, but can he stay healthy? How are they going to manage his rotations for a team that is not going to compete? How are you going to manage those innings? It's going to be interesting, but just real quick note on this. Yahoo, he's only, rostered 56%. ESPN, he's rostered 30%. Fantrax, I guess it's a little bit more experience, but they're 83%. So, he's coming off the waiver wire there. But, guys, if he's available in your league, he shouldn't be. Go get him. If he's not better than your worst pitcher, he's better than your bench bats. There's somebody you can drop for this kid. And then I wanted to give an honorable mention to Ronel Blanco of the Houston Astros. That's the only way they can get a win is if you toss a no-no and then put up 10 runs. The first no-hitter of the 2024 campaign, 7 Ks, 2 walks. I don't think this is like a breakout really candidate. He's 30. He's been in the league for off and on for a little bit, control issues, but he looked really good the other night. So I wanted to.
He did, though, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, because I watched quite a bit of that, I'm pretty sure that he's really upped the usage on his changeup, though, because that changeup looked nasty the other night. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he was, and he was spotting. He was spotting all his stuff. I mean, he was on.
And we'll see. Who was that against? Please refresh my memory.
Blue Jays.
It was the Blue Jays, the paper Tigers, baby.
Paper Tiger Blue Jays. Yeah, they're something else, man. We could have a whole podcast on.
Don't get me started.
What we're gonna do with them, dude? Anything on Garrett Crochet? Do you see anything on?
I mean, I love that you shouted him out for sure. I mean, I think obviously it's 2 starts.
Yeah, that's correct.
But he's looked great. He's always had, even when he was coming out of the pen, man, he's always had great stuff. I would say that my only concerns, obviously you addressed the innings limit because let's face it, he's probably going to get shut down at some point.
Got to.
Honestly, so really that's one concern. And then the other concern is just the fact that he plays on maybe other than the A's and I don't know, the Angels maybe, even though they're in first. Yeah. I don't know of a worse team in the American League. So, I don't know if a whole lot of wins are going to be there, but man, if he keeps pitching the way he's looked these first 2 starts, he's going to be more than a viable starter. Like, he looks great. Dude. So let's see if the league starts to figure him out a little bit. Let's see once the weather starts warming up. Let's see if hitters start to catch up. There's a lot of guys that are just, their timing's off. But take nothing away from Crochet. He's looked great in his first 2 starts, no doubt.
I love it, dude. Great points, great points. Here we go, guys. New segment alert 2024. Because you had a bad day, you take it one down. All right. It's a beautiful song. I think I have to cut it like 2 seconds or else, this whole podcast gets taken down. All right. Here's the deal. We have Heat Check. I figured let's go the other way. Let's talk about somebody who maybe had a tough day. And when it says taking one down, taking down your ratios, man, it's no fun. But we all had them, especially in week 1. Will, tell me about a player that just kind of disappointed you this week.
Man, there was a lot, to be honest with you. But one that kind of jumped out at me just because I just think of him as being one of the absolute best hitters really of the last 5-10 years. Yordan Alvarez, man, the Astros needed him to get a big time bomb hit, timely hit, whatever, against the Yankees in the Yankees series. And he got all of 2 hits in the entire series. So, a lot of the blame, or I feel like a lot of the kind of the vitriol, so to speak, is going towards maybe the manager and the bullpen. But, man, that lineup came up with 0 clutch hits, it felt like. And for Alvarez, as good as that guy is, to only have 2 hits in a big series like that, that's tough. So, there was a lot of people that I could have thrown out there, but I just wanted to, unfortunately, call out that one because I thought it was really significant and played a big role in why his team, in this case, lost those games.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, I don't know if you saw, I think it was the 3rd game. They had runners on, 2 outs, and Altuve would have scored from first on opposite field. It was like, it had to be like less than 6 inches. Left of the foul line, and man, that would have been a big hit off the bat of Alvarez, but he just looks a tick off. And you know what? I feel bad for the teams that are going to play him this week because he will click. I mean, he's not going to bat 150 all year. I would. Right. But all the money in the world on that. He is a perennial MVP kind of guy. So, hang in there, and if you're in a league with maybe a jumpy owner, try and buy low. And send us an email and let us know how it goes. I got 2 guys. Because I could not narrow it down to one. Number 1, though, on my list, my no-no list for week 1, dude, Aaron Nola. I mean, you're talking about having a bad day. Up against Atlanta. And there's arguments to be made that maybe don't start players against Atlanta. We'll talk about it later in our fantasy takeaways from week 1. But it's if it's the ace of your staff, you got to let him eat. Zach Wheeler went out, and I think these first 2 games really
Wheeler was great.
Showed the difference, man. Nola was not. He was not. Got absolutely rocked. And not a great way to start out your ratios in those rotisserie leagues. 4.1 innings, 12 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, man. That's ERA of 14.54. Tough to bounce back. Of course, it's early. We need an early counter. I'm going to go back and I'm going to take Cantwell. And then real quick, man, honorable mention, I guess dishonorable, the Nightmare, Bailey Ober. That's his nickname. I don't know if you know that. He had a nightmarish start against Kansas City of all teams, man. 1.1 innings pitched, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, a walk and a K. Gave up 3 homers. So if you play in a league where things like that count, that's not what you want to see. I didn't watch much of the start. I don't know if his velo was down, this, that, or the other. Pretty tough. I don't know how cold it was in Minnesota. These are all things I need to look up. But, pretty tough. Anything on those 2?
That's definitely rough days. At least for Aaron Nola, you can say he went up against the Braves. But again, Zach Wheeler shut him down the day before.
True.
And then Ober, he was against Kansas City, and Kansas City's better, but I wouldn't consider them a juggernaut at this point. So hopefully those two guys will rebound, but definitely not an ideal way to start for sure.
No doubt about it, man. No doubt. Pretty tough. Here we go. Early season dust ups and what's on the grill with Will. This is our first regular season what's on the grill. Super excited because, dude, it was a little chippy that first weekend, man. Let's talk about it. You had McNeil and Hoskins barking back and forth after Hoskins slid in trying to break up the double play. McNeil was livid. He turned around, started screaming immediately at at Reese after he slid. He kind of laid there. It was very interesting to look up and see McNeil just screaming at you. I have to imagine. And then the following day, Reese Hoskins was going off 3 for 4 with a homer and 4 ribbies. And then late in the game, one of the relievers, Johan Ramirez, threw behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty gosh darn predictable. That caused the benches to clear again. So the Mets manager, he was suspended for a game. Ramirez was suspended for 3. And I believe it's still being appealed. I have not seen it come out if he served the 3 games or if it's down to 1. You know, they typically do that. What did you see on the slide? Because it didn't look terrible to me. What did you have on this?
I mean, no. I mean, my goodness. I mean, if any of these guys watched slides back in the 80s and 90s, this looks like a guy on a slip and slide. You know, I mean, this is nothing. I mean, to answer your question, I didn't see a whole lot. Here's what I think. I think that there's some history between those two guys because remember, Reese Hoskins played for a number of years for the Phillies. Phillies and Mets don't love each other, so they ran into each other a lot back in the day when, you know, Phillies Mets series was going on. So some sort of history there. You know, I think that's really the biggest thing. I don't think those guys are the best of friends, and you know what, Reese went in there a little hot, but I have zero issue with basically anything that went down other than McNeil just getting mad about it. Like I think it's much ado about nothing. But I have to believe that there's definitely some history there that maybe not everybody realizes.
Yeah. Dude, I think it was tough scenes for New York. I mean, by the letter of the law, he did not lose contact with the bag. He didn't really slide that far past it. It was almost like McNeil just thought, okay, I'm going to stand at the bag and then he's not going to slide into me. It's like the Mets don't break up double plays. I mean, that's the thing about the internet too. People are putting together video montages of McNeil sliding in hard to people at second base. And so obviously you don't know when that was. He's been in the league for a few years now and they've tweaked the rules, but you know, that base does not protect you. I mean, you'll see you step on the bag, step to the right or left, jump over the guy sliding, whatever you need to do, but you can't just sit there and then expect the guy not to, you know, try and make a play. I think, you know, maybe it gets a little heated because you saw a little give in the knee. So that's pretty scary when you're talking about guys' livelihoods. But I mean, for the most part, it was tough scenes both sides because then Reese just gets up and runs away. But then when he gets back in the dugout, he starts doing the wham, you know, starts doing the wham. And I think that's pretty soft. Yeah. I mean, if you got
there's history there. There's history there.
Yeah. I agree with you. And then a little one. This one really wasn't much of anything, but it did involve your Rays. So I kind of wanted to binge hear about it. Genesis Cabrera shoving Jose Cabanero. Dude, what about 2 names to have to get through here? I mean, that ain't easy for me. And I think I'm 1 for 2, maybe 0 for 2 on those. Anyway, benches cleared and some hands were thrown a little bit. This was a big boy. Nobody went wham after a bunt from Cabanero and then a bad throw from Justin Turner. He tried to go from second to third, guys, and then I mean he was out by 10, 15 feet. Wasn't close. But in an attempt to slow down, kind of ran into the pitcher backing it up, Cabrera, and Cabrera kind of gave him an elbow. You know, you have to rewatch the replay, but you see a little elbow in there, and so then there's a discussion, and then Cabrera just flat out, you know, 2 hands like chest pass in basketball, just right to the face, pretty soft. Jose Cabanero, he didn't do anything. He was just like, all right, man, didn't think it was this serious. So I guess stand up move there. Didn't see anything after this in the series, you know, so maybe it just ended right there on the field. But what'd you have on this?
I mean, it was kind of random. You described it well, but I mean, when Caballero was just kind of, I think he was just walking kind of back to the dugout, and it's almost like he bumped into Cabrera, and Cabrera just kind of lost it for a few seconds, really.
Yeah.
I have to believe it's just kind of heat of the moment, adrenaline's pumping, all that kind of stuff. And, but anyways, I mean, I have to believe it, just chalk it up for heat of the moment because I didn't really see anything malicious whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And Genesis I just think he lost his mind for a few seconds for whatever reason. Thankfully, Caballero kind of, took it in stride, didn't escalate anything, or else it could have turned into something probably pretty major. But anyways, because I actually saw some of the interviews afterwards, and this doesn't feel like it's going to be something that lingers between these two teams. So anyways, we'll see. But I think kind of at the end of the day, cooler heads prevailed.
Yep, that's good, man. That's what it's probably what we need. Maybe McNeil should take a lesson. Look, watch,
anger
see.
management.
Look, maybe a little anger. I mean, just to chuck the ball on the ground and start screaming at somebody. And Reese is just lying there, probably like, is he yelling at me? And then roll over. I mean, guys, I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably know who this guy is. But go check out the lip reading that John Boy Media does on this. He got everything, and it's pretty freaking hilarious. Don't listen to it if you got kids around. That was a little salty language, as you can imagine, as they were, two grown men screaming at each other. Moving on from this, Will, just your biggest opening week series takeaway, man. What did you like?
Oh man, again, just try not to overreact after the first week. But I think the biggest thing, I kind of want to go back to the Yankees Astros. Like, are the Yankees really this legitimately good? Are the Astros really going to struggle? I have to believe that the answer is somewhere in the middle.
Sure.
I believe the Yankees are legit good? Yes, I do. Do I think the Astros are this bad? No, I don't. But I will say this: I think the Yankees, that lineup is different now that Soto's in there. Volpe looks way better. I know we're just a week in, but Anthony Volpe looks a lot better than he did last year. And I think if that holds true, I think the Yankees are going to be a problem. For
Cabrera
Houston
has looked really good as well. I mean, this whole if you look at the lineup last year, it was so right-handed dominant that they need some lefties. They went out and made the appropriate moves. I mean, you get the best left-handed hitter in baseball, and then Verdugo is kind of a sneaky, underappreciated move. Which who isn't after Soto? But Doogie had a really big 2-run shot for them in extras today. And this team they revitalized the offensive bench as well. They went out and traded for John Birdie, who that guy can play great defense and steal some bases. Trent Grissom is a Gold Glove center fielder, so you can move if late in games, move Judge to right or left, and you don't have to worry about him getting injured. I mean, they have made moves. It's the same old thing though with this rotation as far as like what are we going to do with Rendon and Nestor's gotten hit in both his starts pretty dang hard. So
I think the key though, like especially now that we're kind of talking about these two teams, I think here's what I feel like gets lost in the shuffle when we're talking about the Yankees and the Astros. I think when we're talking about the Astros, it's really easy to think, oh my God, their bullpen's amazing. The back end of their bullpen is amazing with Abreu, Presley, Hader. I don't care how they looked in the first week. That's an amazing back three.
Yeah.
But here's possibly the issue with the Astros. They lost a guy like Ryan Stanek. They lost Hector Neris. They lost a couple of the guys that have been key pieces these past few years. And I this is my opinion. I think that new manager is going to ride those back three really hard because he knows that that's by far their best three arms in the bullpen. And I'm just scared that he's going to overuse them, just out of necessity. Yeah. Whereas the Yankees, they might not have the top end ability like a Hader, a Presley, and a Abreu, but I feel like they've got a bunch of really solid arms in that bullpen. And so what I'm getting at is even if their starting pitching isn't just amazing, if they can just get through 5 innings, they kind of have a bullpen by committee approach to where Aaron Boone's got a lot of pieces to work with that can get them to the finish line in a lot of games. So I hope that all makes sense, but that's kind of my big takeaway when we're comparing those two teams. At the end of the day, I think the Yankees are going to be really good. I think the Astros are going to be fine. I do. But as I've said all along, I just don't think they have quite the margin that they've had over the past 5-10 years.
Yeah. Hey, it's why I got the hat on. I'm here to do a little defense, but I mean, dude, here's the biggest thing, because I think I've watched almost every game, because the Red Sox games are starting at like 9, and so the whole slate of games is done, and then the Red Sox played. I am so ready for them to get back east, so I can watch. I mean, I got to watch them today. The game started at 2:30 our time. I was like, oh, this is so nice, you know.
Hey, you're not allowed to complain when your team plays against the Oakland A's.
Dude, it is. There's like a breath of fresh air throughout the 9 innings. It's kind of like, oh, they got guys on, but no one's gonna hit them in, you know. And it's 1-0. You know, Kenley was not throwing the ball great in the 9th inning at all. I mean, wild as could be. Guys on the corners, 1 out, not a problem for Kenley Jansen,
right?
Man. And because you know you're playing the Oakland Athletics.
That's right.
Yep, dude. Here's the deal, real quick. Peeling back to Houston. Anybody not named Yanier Diaz, who's been like my best early season prediction. He's looked great, but let me roll off some names: Alvarez, Bregman, Abreu. Let's see, you know, McCormick. Those are the big 3, man. Those guys are like batting under 200, and some of them are under 100. The runners in scoring position, those statistics have been abysmal. I mean, Altuve got thrown out at their, you know, we can look at the 1-0 game, or well, they ended up losing 2-1 against Toronto. I think it was last night, and Hader blew the save. But dude, it's 1-0 going into the top of the 9th. There were 2 runners on in the 8th. Altuve gets picked off for no reason with Diaz up, your hottest hitter. They're just not playing super sound baseball, and so like I think I might have said on the podcast, or maybe before we hit record, like it just seems to be speeding up on Espinosa a little bit. And so, or Espada rather, Joe Espada. So dude, you're right on with the Yankees. I mean, Ian Hamilton has I mean, dude, where did he come from? He's been absolutely nasty. Loaizaga is hit or miss, but he is, I mean, he can be great. He's got great stuff. And then they've made moves, you know, they traded for Ferguson and Gonzalez from LA. So dude, you're right on, man. With the bullpen, I love everything you said, because you're right. I mean, once you get past those top 3 in Houston, it's a little shaky.
It is. And that lineup in New York, that lineup's going to score now. Like that lineup is consistently going to score the way it is built now. So, you know, the Yankees don't have to have Garrett Cole going out there throwing 7 innings of 1-run baseball to have a shot. So, you know, the margin for error, like the Yankees have a bigger margin for error right now, and, you know, they're going to win a lot of games. So I'm just curious to see kind of how both these two teams continue to, you know, play out the season. I think obviously Houston's going to be okay. They've got too much talent not to rebound, but, you know, keep an eye on the usage of that back 3 though. I hope I'm wrong, but I just feel like that's going to be an issue at some point.
Yep. Hey dude, we talked about a couple good teams. My big series takeaway, I guess just a holistic thing. The Pirates might be a March/April team. I don't know if you guys remember this last year. I think they started out like 20-8 in the month of April and March combined. This is the team. They have looked super young, excited. Started the year 5-0 behind the young core offensively of O'Neill Cruz, Brian Reynolds, and Henry Davis behind the dish, man. And let me tell you something. That dude is an athlete, right? He was the former. Was he number 2 overall?
He was up there.
Yeah, he was an early first-round pick. He might have been 1. I cannot remember exactly, but big prospect, gets behind the dish, man. He laser beamed somebody out today. It was it was a bunt. It was a bunt, and Luis Garcia was trying to get from second to third, and he just popped up, grabbed the ball, and I mean it was like a laser to third, but he was out by 5 feet. Dude looks like the real deal. Speaking of guys who look like the real deal, Jared Jones came up and looked really solid. Strikeout stuff is there. Struck out 10 in 5.2 innings, gave up 3 earned runs, but still really, really solid from Pittsburgh. Just a lot of fun to watch this team. Oddly enough, it's been Mitch Keller, their newly signed. He's supposed to be their ace. He's looked terrible, and he looked terrible again today against the Nationals. And then David Bednar, man, he's gotten rocked. He's their stalwart in the back of that bullpen. Dealt with some shoulder stuff, I believe.
And could have been elbow recently too.
Yeah, so listen, this guy, maybe he's not 100% healthy, but I mean, just served up a meatball to Miami the other day, and it was like bada bing, bada boom, tie game, blown save. I think it was the first pitch of the inning, so that's pretty tough. But, holistically, this is a team that's gotten off to a good start. Have you gotten to watch any Pirates baseball?
A little bit, but I tell you what, man, we even said in the offseason that franchise feels like they're turning a corner. I think that some of the talent starting to pay dividends. And Paul Skeens threw 3 innings of hitless baseball in his first AAA start. Help is on the way. I love what Jared Jones brings to the table. I think he has potential to be I don't want to say ace yet, but I think he's got frontline stuff. Absolutely, I feel like. The bats, I think, are going to be a little bit hot or cold, but they're going to be better. And we've said this all along. It's not like anybody in the NL Central is just like the Dodgers, So, if Pittsburgh can hang in there, be more than just an April team and show some signs of this actually lasting, I mean, hey, get to the trade deadline and see what happens. And so, I really like where this franchise is headed. And I don't know if this is going to be the year. We'll see. But, man, they're going to be a player for a couple of years to come, in the near future.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you have Paul Skeens' stash, this is exactly what you're rooting for. Because if they come out and they go, if they pull Marlins, go 0-7, if they're not competing, they're not going to, as weird as it is to say, I don't think they call him up that early, or even at all. I mean, I think that would be wild if he spent the whole year in the minors, because it's so apparent he's big league ready. Right. But, dude, you start out. This is the division, man. It's probably the most up in the air division. I mean, both Centrals, I guess we could have a conversation. But, you start out 5-0, looking great. This is not a team that they weren't steamrolling people either, but man, they were coming back, and they got a lot of fight. And hey, let's shape up. There's question marks with Marco Gonzalez in the back end, and then I'm blanking on his name, but I got it right here. Will Bailey Falter. Okay, this is a guy from Philly. Trying to pan out, but didn't look great in his first start. Didn't matter. Offense picked him up. But listen, Paul Skeens is better than these guys, and so this by a mile. So this is the lane. Play well, and they're gonna reward you with some help. Dude, we talked about our biggest just baseball takeaways. What about fantasy takeaways, man? No more projections, no more predictions. We're in it now. Okay, we're making calls. We're benching people. We're starting people. What was your takeaway from week 1?
Week 1, I mean, we've said it's early countless times already, but I think week 1 can tell you a lot, actually. I think that week 1 is, is kind of it's a small sample size, but it can actually show you kind of almost like a foreshadowing of this is what's going to occur a lot this season kind of thing. And so I think my biggest takeaway was kind of something that I really felt was probably going to play out again this year, and I feel like it's going to again, is, man, pitching is going to be so up and down, I feel like. I think the difference between like your aces, so to speak, your top 10, 15 starting pitchers in the game, I think they're going to have less bad starts than your middle of the road guys. Mm-hmm. But I really believe that pitching is going to be a complete and total wild card this year. I think, obviously, just like any year, I think there's obviously going to be a couple of guys that stand out when we get to, the summer months, as these are the studs of the game this year. But as a whole, I think pitching is going to be a total crapshoot. And if you're in a head-to-head league and you've got basically the same number of pitching stats as the same number of hitting stats that essentially score your league, I think pitching is going to be a wild card. I think it's going to be one of those things where you might win a couple in a row and you might lose a couple in a row because of your pitching. And then hitting hopefully can kind of carry you through if you have a really good team. But man, pitching is, to me, even after the first week, it validates kind of my concerns leading in to the season. I think it's going to be all over the place.
Yeah. You can say that about, head to head, just on the base case. We talked about it. We talked about coming up with a way to quantify a bad luck stat. If you can rank every team you're facing, their weeks throughout the year, and then when they face you, there is some way, dude. One day we're just going to sit down.
Yeah.
Just enough Jack Fires and Cokes to come up between the two of us. We'll come up with this, okay?
It's like a strength of schedule, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I love everything you said. And you can talk about that any normal fantasy year. But the last 2 years,
yes,
it is like you start these guys and then they're out walking in a landmine, and when are they just gonna get, lit up?
Yep.
It's you just never know. It's really hard to predict. You have to get. I mean, I guess you don't have to. It's just for fun. It's fantasy baseball. But I mean, you got to be looking at almost everything. Okay, what's the weather going to do in Wrigley? Because if it's blowing out and the ball gets hit, I mean, it hits a jet stream there, and then it's a home run. I got burnt by that. I cannot remember who it was last year. It might have been Nola.
Yeah.
And I was just like, son of a gun. And then you look at the weather, and he gave up 4 home runs. But he does not come out of games. They're just like, we're going to keep him in here. This guy's going to eat our innings. He's getting 200 innings. I don't care what his ERA is. Dude, you can butter some stats and take out those big starts and or those bad starts, and he looks way better. But anyway, back to my point. I think you're right on about that. And we had this conversation in the draft prep year where it was like, okay, or in the off season rather, hey, this is why I like to go offensive heavy. But you made this great point. It's like, if pitching is so flimsy, wouldn't you want to double down on that? I was like, son of a gun, that's a really good point. And you know what? It's paid dividends for me a little bit in week 1. So, dude, I feel you. It kind of dovetails into one of my 2 takeaways. So I'll hit those now. And you can say this is because Nola got roughed up, but just hear me out on this. I mean, unless you have a true fantasy ace, all right, I'm not talking about the Boston Red Sox 1 pitcher or, I mean, you know what I mean? Not the guy who starts on opening day for every team. I'm not talking about Mitch Keller.
No, we're talking about a top 5 to 10 arm in the whole league.
Exactly. Unless you have a true fantasy ace, I would seriously consider, and this is not this hot of a take, I don't know that I'd start him against the Braves or the Dodgers. I mean, you have to look at every facet of your league to make sure.
Yep.
Because it could just rip your ratios for that week. And if it's head to head, you could lose that week. Roto, it's a little bit less important. And I mean, obviously you're going to get a ding on your stats, but it's just all clumped together. But if you're trying to win head to head, I would almost, and I've never felt like this before, I would almost feel better having them on my bench and them having a good start than starting them and just getting absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
Because these 2 teams, even 5 games in, 6 games in, they are what we thought they'd be. I mean, they are monstrous. It's absolutely wild. And
can I throw in one more team?
Of course. Texas.
Yeah. And I feel like Texas hasn't even gotten really rolling yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Texas here in the next couple of weeks, I know Josh Young is hurt for, probably a month or 2, and that hurts that lineup a little bit. But I feel like Texas also possibly has that.
Yeah.
They're not quite on the level of the Dodgers Braves right now, in my mind, but keep an eye out for them, and I think Texas might be in your little scenario here too.
Yeah, be like a little trio of teams to seriously I don't often auto bench players because I mean we talk about this too. Like they're not on my team. If there's a guy that I'm just not gonna play, they're not gonna be on the team for long. But I mean I say that I have Mitch Keller rostered quite a few places, but it's early.
I do too.
That's my second point, Will. We'll just keep on this train, man. Second point, baby. It's week 1. Be patient. Be patient. Don't snap drop anybody. I've seen it in leagues I'm playing in. And honestly, this person might be listening to me. Listen, it's a long season. And everybody's trying to find it again, okay? These are guys that played baseball their whole life. But some people start out hot. Some people don't. I mean, I'm going to talk about him a little bit. Evan Carter is 0 for 15. All right?
Yeah, don't drop him.
Don't drop Evan Carter. In fact, I go the other way. I'm out here trying to get him on more teams because the hit tool is absolutely there. The dude has, I don't want to totally give away for the next segment. So I might stop talking about Evan Carter. But yeah, guys, just be patient. I know it's no fun losing. I know everybody wants to run the table. You do all this draft preps. You feel like you did good enough to have a better team than what they're performing like. Just hang in there. It's going to be okay. Am I right, Will?
You are. I would say here's kind of my rule. I'll throw this out there. My rule is anybody that I take in the first half of my draft. So if I'm playing, let's just make the math easy. If I'm playing in a league that has 20 rounds, my first 10 guys that I picked, I'm not dropping them, and I'm at least giving them several weeks. Now, if it's somebody that I picked in the latter half of my draft, and there's somebody on waivers that I've seen them play, and I love what I've seen, like what you threw out with Garrett Crochet earlier, right? If I saw him pitch 2 times, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he is going to be incredible this year. Like if I just kind of get that feeling, then I am not hesitating to drop somebody and go out and get, in this example, Garrett Crochet. So hopefully that makes sense. Like there's a fine line. Don't get paralyzed and be like, oh yeah, these guys are going to turn it around when there's a guy on waivers that you think is going to be amazing. But to your point, please don't drop a guy who is easily a top 100 player for a guy who's had a hot first week. There's a difference there. And so that's kind of what I would say about it. You know, be smart about it. You know, but again, if you got a great feeling about somebody who's you feel like is about to break out, go get him, but just don't drop like a 5th round pick that you drafted for him.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. And you know what? Reach out to us if you have a question about this, because it might be featured on, I don't know, one of our favorite segments. Who's on fire on the wire? Okay.
Right.
Where we go over who's really crushing it on the waiver wire, and then who might you drop for them. So, reach out to us, guys, because these are conversations we're just having amongst each other in our heads in our day-to-day life, trying to figure out how to tighten up these fantasy teams. Guys, there's been an absence in my life. Okay. And I think we all know what it was. If you were here last year, you know, just close your eyes and hang in there for 1 second. That's the wrong one, Will. That's not the right one. Hey, we're back with the soundboard, okay? We need, we got to take off so the producer can come in and do this. Okay.
Hey, everything's better with bacon.
It is, yeah. That's what it is. That was my main point. No, here it is, guys. The Roman Candle Pick-to-Click Player of the Week is back for Season 2. I know what a lot of people are thinking. Didn't Cody get absolutely demolished last year by Will in this segment? That's a hard yes. I mean, right, Will? Wasn't it 15-5, and mathematically I was out pretty early
up
on?
There, yeah. I had a magic number that we were counting down about halfway through the season. So, Hey, the law of averages is going to play in your favor here. You got a good chance this year.
That's right. Hey, here's the deal. Yeah, it's just like Alek Manoah. Can't get much worse than last year. Okay, and there we go. Got our Alek Manoah plug. Yep. When things don't pan out with Toronto, we got a third. We got a seat just nice and toasty for you, man. Third co-host. He would not enjoy that. I will say he will not be here. Christian Javier might.
Javier, the invitation's still open,
dude. Open invitation, Christian.
Hey. And Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, and Juan Soto. Let's just get everybody.
And Juan, yes.
Let's just get everybody in here. Be 5 guys. It'd be a great time. Oh, burgers and fries. Okay. Will, tell me about your week 1. Who's going to keep the streak alive for you?
Yeah, so you know what? I want to get the season started off really well. I'm going to go to a lineup that we mentioned just earlier that just it's crazy how good this lineup is when you watch them. And that's down in Atlanta. And I'm going to go with Ozzie Albies. Switch hitting second baseman. He kind of sometimes, honestly, as good of a player as he is, I feel like he gets lost in the shuffle because you think of Ronald Acuna, you think of Austin Riley, you think of Matt Olson after the year he had last year, even a guy like Michael Harris who's young, up and coming. And sometimes Ozzie Albies, you just forget how good the guy is. Yeah. And so, anyways, I'm going to go Ozzie Albies for my player this coming week and look for him to have a really, really nice week. By the way, I didn't mention this in our takeaways earlier, and I just want to throw it out there. Second base kind of stinks.
Yeah.
For fantasy purposes. Like it feels like there's kind of a big 4 second base. Obviously, Mookie Betts has second base eligibility in a lot of leagues, which is a cheat code, but once you get past about those first 4 guys, man, it's
not great.
It's kind of choppy waters out there for the time being. So
that was Nico Horner started out poorly. Luis Arraez started out.
Yeah. So, obviously we'll see if this turns around a little bit, but my early takeaway, in addition to pitching being a wild card, is second base kind of stinks. But anyways, one second baseman that don't stink is Ozzie Albies, and he's going to have a big week this week.
Dude, that's a great call. It's a beautiful call. It makes me want to change my answer because I just talked about this guy. I'm going bold week 1, and it's a strategy I tried to deploy last year, and it might be why I didn't do too well. But listen, new year, new me, same strategy. Evan Carter, okay? Speaking of laws of averages, man, this guy, okay, he couldn't get out in the World Series. He batted 3 for the Rangers. Well, how about this ice cold start? 0 for 15. Now, the eye is still there. 6 walks, 2 Ks. I mean, this guy starts hitting, and he will.
Yeah.
It's gonna be everything we signed up for, but it's just been a tough. I mean, he's on the bench, and probably for the rest of the week until he shows me something, because it's just like, man, it's been like an automatic for literally. Here's the deal: they're gonna move him down in the lineup, and if he doesn't click out of it, there is definitely a world. There's enough depth on this team where he goes down to AAA. So that, coupled with him being my Roman Candle player of the week, pick to click, Will, that's going to propel him. He's going to bat 624 average, probably 18 home runs, 37 RBIs this week. Here we go, bud.
Impressive.
Yeah, it'd be a great way to start. Hey, speaking of great ways to start, guys, listen, it's good to be back. All right. All the predictions and all the, we did all these mock drafts, and we did all these breakdowns. Baseball is back, and I just think the world looks a little brighter. Birds chirp a little louder, Will. I mean, you got my back on this?
I agree. Baseball is like it's like the Band-Aid, it makes everything just a little bit better, right? So I'm glad it's back, second everything you said, and looking forward to seeing how these. Obviously, we've got a race all the way up until October, so it's going to be fun to keep up with all this stuff as we progress through the season.
Dude, no doubt. Hey, guys, great luck as week 1 winds down. It's been a long week. I know it's been a grind. When you wake up on Monday, it'll be a new grind, okay? A little bit shorter, though. Reach out to us on Twitter at BTH_Cody and at Will Sism. Any questions? Any thoughts about the podcast? Leave a comment. We're up on YouTube, Bringing the Heat. Check that out. if you'd like. And man, we just love you guys. Really appreciate you for listening. But until next time, thanks for listening to episode 75 of Bringing the Heat.